So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are. We are a group of females, as you can see, that work at Eli Lilly, and we are here to talk two very important topics. The first is the role that we all as women play in pharma analytics, and we will talk about a little bit about our team. And we will give you an example of one very complex and lengthy project that we did that it's called dynamic targeting. To start with, we will meet the speakers, so we'll talk a little bit about ourselves, and then we'll get into the presentation of the project. I would like, before we start, I would just like to thank the Caucus for Women in Statistics and Data Science for organizing this conference and to accept our proposal to speak about our work in this important conference. So I'll start with the meet the speakers, and we will present ourselves at times. So there are a couple of questions that hopefully will help you all to know us a little bit better. And I will just start with one question, and please introduce yourselves, what you do, before starting answering that question. So the first question is, can you please describe your current role? And this time I'll probably start with Laura. Laura, go ahead.
Sure. Great. Hi all, I am Laura Cheatham. My current role at Lilly is I lead our central capabilities team, or a central capabilities team. We have a few of them. My team is embedded in our business insights and analytics team, which we'll talk about in a little bit what our overall team is. What my team is specifically responsible for, and I'm responsible for, is really leading new and evolving MarTech capabilities. So MarTech capabilities being things where you're blending marketing, technology, but also for a lot of the work we lead, it's very heavily driven by data and analytics. And these technologies are kind of up and coming and continually changing. My team is highly cross-functional. So while we are leading some of these new capabilities that we're standing up as an organization, we also work very, very closely with all of our different teams within business insights and analytics, kind of even starting with, though, understanding business needs, organizational needs, business partner needs, and then bridging that, partnering very closely with our business insights and analytics team, which includes teams, as we'll be sharing in a second, but our data engineering team, data science team, we have analysts working in pharmaceutical marketing. We have heavy need and heavy partnership with privacy and compliance, IT tech, all sorts of teams. So we deliver a variety of different capabilities, one of which we'll talk about here shortly.
Thank you, Laura. This time, well, let's go to Maria.
Hello, my name is Maria Varchenko, and I also work for Lilly. And within Lilly and within Business Insights and Analytics, I lead a team of data engineers. And our core responsibilities include building and maintaining data pipelines that move and transform large data sets that are then used to provide analytics insights. We also standardize and integrate data, making it accessible to the downstream users, teams like reporting teams, analytics teams, as well as data science teams. In pharma, we also have the responsibility to ensure and enable data compliance with regulatory standards. And so our team implements security measures that protect sensitive information and ensure data confidentiality. We also manage both cloud-based technology as well as on-premises infrastructures to allow for large-scale data processing. All of that work ensures that we have data flowing efficiently through the organization, supporting both the innovation and the regulatory adherence.
Thank you, Maria. So Mega, you want to go for next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Sumega. I'm currently working as a senior associate consultant in Lilly, and I've been supporting different data engineering projects over here. One of them we would be talking about in today's Connect. So yeah, we have been working across, like Mara said, we have been working across different hybrid model, be it cloud on-prem. So I've been supporting different teams, be it DS team and MLOps and different analytics teams as well. So they can, so we can streamline their processes and automate our pipelines as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sumega. Stephanie, do you want to go next?
Yes. So to wrap us up, so I'm Stephanie Chen. I lead a team of data scientists here at Lilly. Our broader objective is kind of supporting sales and marketing with making better decisions using our data. So we do a lot of statistical modeling, machine learning models of various types, trying to help identify, we'll talk more about what Lilly does, what BI&A does as a whole, but kind of helping to identify opportunity. How do we make sure that our marketing is going to the right customers and ensure that our marketing is effective and kind of good, providing value and benefit to our patients themselves as well as the company as a whole. So my team as data scientists was responsible for sort of delivering the final product that we'll kind of talk through in today's presentation. But I have the very great privilege of working with everybody that's on this screen here about towards that delivery. So certainly I think as data scientists, we often, get to talk about the cool, fun AI stuff, but we really wanted to highlight in today's presentation a lot of the end-to-end work that it takes to really enable those kind of final product deliveries and the work that we do on models. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Stephanie. And while you are there, can you tell us a little bit about your experience and your education, the ones that you think help you most in this role?
Yes. So I have a little bit of a non-traditional background coming into stats. So my graduate degree and background was in animal biology. So I worked on, essentially collecting data and doing research on prairie dogs, monkeys, things like that. And then I long-term made a transition over to statistics based off that experience. So I found that I really enjoyed analyzing data and kind of working through the analyses and maybe not as much of the data collection part. And so I ended up getting a PhD in statistics from North Carolina State University, and that's what kind of got me into Lilly. So Lilly was my first role out of grad school. I started off actually as a data scientist on the team that I now lead, and then kind of over the years sort of started to step up more into leadership and management roles. So it's been really interesting and really fun to see this organization itself evolve, but also to really see the way that we treat statistics and data science as a whole over time. So certainly that's evolved a lot. But I've been kind of a formal leader for about the last 2 years now, leading kind of the team that I actually used to be on.
Thank you, Stephanie. What about you, Samega? What was your education and basically your experiences that bring you to this role?
Yeah, so talking about experience, I have around 8 years of experience, out of which I have worked with different domains. Like I have worked with telephony, e-commerce, and maybe conversational media platforms, and now pharmaceuticals. So I actually started my career as a web developer, full stack web developer. Then I transitioned my role into the data. But yeah, so it was my decision. Like I enjoyed working with data, so that's why I moved to this technology, and I enjoy working with data. So yeah, it has actually working throughout different domains have helped me enhance my skill set. And yeah, and talking about my education, I have done computer science engineering, computer science engineering as my graduation. And after that, I have also did my executive MBA in international business from IIFT. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sumega. Maria, you are probably the most experienced among us. You want to share your experience and education?
Absolutely, but I somewhat similar to Stephanie didn't walk a familiar path. I hold a degree, a bachelor's degree in biochemistry and a master's degree in statistics. I started my career many, many years ago as a data analyst doing marketing trends analysis, and then quickly realized that I absolutely love working with the data a lot more than I love working on the analysis. And so I also realized that in order for me to be more proficient with data processing, data mining, and some of the data infrastructure, I need to learn new tools and technologies. So if I may say, I'm a self-made data engineer. So I early in my career, I used to work during the day and take computer programming classes at night. I studied up on a lot of codes, SQL codes, Python codes. I made sure that I can take data through various stages of the data processing. And at some point, I started doing it as part of my job. And again, many, many years later, I get to lead a large team of data engineers, and I'm incredibly proud of that accomplishment, as well as the work that they do.
Thank you, Maria. Last but not least.
Yeah, I think it's, people with very diverse and different backgrounds. So kind of similar to Maria, more of my experience and skill has been gained in the working world than academic background. So I have an undergraduate degree in a non-math statistics, analytics background. I did spend a significant amount of my career in media buying, planning, and a lot of that time on buying and negotiation. And also a variety of experiences in marketing and brand strategy across a lot of different verticals outside of pharma, working with clients that are large clients, small clients, some regional, focused in one area of the US, some more global clients. So a variety of different experiences in my time. But I think what has helped me most be successful in the role that I'm in now is really having a depth of business strategy and marketing strategy, as well as deep customer understanding, and being able to ask the right questions, even if I'm not the one driving the business strategy or driving the customer understanding, that I'm able to ask and work with business partners to understand what is it that we're trying to achieve as an organization, or whatever that particular person is trying to achieve. Because then that helps very much with when we translate that to technical requirements and technical work. It really helps make the work that we deliver meaningful and drive outcomes that can actually be used. I think a few other skills, thinking about the folks on this call and kind of ways to practice. One additional area that's helped me be successful in my role is really having a high learning agility and practicing learning agility. So not just like, well, I was thrown into this role and I learned how to do it, but seeking out opportunities where you're learning things that aren't in your skill set or aren't in kind of your wheelhouse or things that you're comfortable with, because that helps you be put in situations where you need to learn from others. High emotional intelligence has been very helpful. So really being able to understand and learn from others, active listening, and then kind of really being able to get at where someone is coming from, what are they looking for. So kind of ultimately a lot more both technical and soft skills learned in the working world, as opposed to a specific degree or background needed.
Thank you, Laura. I think there is, if I can summarize everything that you all, the four of you said, and there is something that I heard very recently from a statistician. If we want to be a full data scientist, we need to know more than just algorithms and computers. And I think it's really true. It's knowing the details of the phenomenon that we want to, that what we are trying to model, what we are trying to understand. To give you just a very brief example from the pharmaceutical industry, because that's where we're coming from, if someone would not know that in a given country, a medical doctor to prescribe a medicine will need to have a given specialty, you could include in a predictive model the specialty of the doctor, and that will be highly predictive of the doctor prescribing or not, but that will help you in anything. If you want to answer a question as basic as which medical doctor should we talk about on prescribing this medicine, because this is a given, it is by law that is like that. So we need to know a lot about the phenomenon that we are trying to model also. So we need to know about pharmaceutical industry in our case. Let's talk a little bit also on a little bit further on the any advice that you would like to give to all of the women that are today listening to us if they want to move into analytics and data science. And this time I'll start with Maria.
All right. Well, if I had to give an advice to women trying to move into technical line of work, be it data engineering or analytics or data science, my advice would be, don't be afraid to start. And don't ever assume that it's too late. You're well in your career, or you're at the beginning of your career or closer to the end. Always aim higher, and essentially that's what I did, and I think this is an important step to remember. All journeys start with that first step, but then once you're able to learn, and once you're able to upskill, and once you're able to do this work, the joy and the satisfaction of doing the work that you love is ultimately infinite. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Maria. Samega, can you go next?
Yeah, so I would suggest who really wants to go into this field, so to have the confidence in your abilities and think that you can achieve it. And because it's always like Maria said, it's always important to have that first step, to take that first step, so that because it's perfectly okay that we don't know that we have everything figured out right now. We just have to take the first step, and even if we make mistakes, there will be people that will be there to help us, and we should seek mentorship as well from them. And every step we make, even if it is a mistake, it would be a forward progress. So we should just don't fear about that, taking those steps, and just go ahead in that direction. Yeah.
Thank you. Stephanie.
Yeah, so yes. So gosh, I may give one that's like maybe a little bit more technical or in-depth, is just to say, learn your data and know your data very well. So even if you don't necessarily are the one doing the analysis or doing the querying on it, knowing where the data comes from, like, how is it collected? What are the compliance restrictions? What are the limitations on the data? What can you actually tell from it is incredibly valuable, and something that I still use a lot is like, if even just the basic question of where did this data come from? Like, how is it collected? Tells you a lot about what kind of information you can get from it, but also what are some of the risks of potentially using it in the wrong way. So I think, we'll talk more about in the pharma space in general, but one of the big restrictions we work through here is just patient privacy, but also just, when you think about it from a technical perspective, capture rate. We don't see all of we don't see everything that a patient does in the medical space for various reasons. And so that sometimes the lack of information is incredibly critical, and you can't just make conclusions that because we don't see something, that it didn't happen. A lot of times it's because of something in the underlying space, there's a reason why we didn't see it. So that definitely violates all kinds of statistical assumptions, and that means that we have to make our modeling choices very differently from it.
Thank you. Laura?
Maybe the opposite side of technical side. I think one piece of advice I'd give is to lean into relationships and proactively seek advice from others, even if you have very, very high subject matter expertise or technical expertise in a particular area. you can always learn something from someone else. So seeking advice, proactively seeking advice, continuing to build relationships, so that you can learn and grow in your career, I think has been very helpful for me over time, and has also been very helpful on this project that we'll talk about, in working across a team where I'm fully reliant on trust and understanding from others in order to together make this project come to life.
Okay, so probably the most important question before we finish, and let's go fast, otherwise we don't have time for the project. Give us a fun fact about yourself, Stephanie.
All right, so this group will appreciate it. So my dogs are all have statistics themes names. So my current dog, her name is Ellie, short for LME, the linear mixed effects model. And then my previous dog was Nova, short for analysis of variance.
Good, Sumega.
So the fun fact would be that I love traveling. So I'm a passionate traveler and I like discovering new places and connecting with different people. Also, another fun fact, or maybe not, it would be I like to engage in healthy activities and healthy lifestyle. So because it's really good to have a mindful living. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Laura?
My fun fact is my favorite food is ice cream.
And Maria?
My fun fact is that I'm an avid hiker, trekker, and climber. And being in the wilderness relaxes me and allows me to think about something else standing at the top of the mountain other than work. And also gives me a perspective that work is not everything. There are bigger things in life. So
True, that's true. Thank you, team. I'll call you in a second. So for now, let me just talk a little bit about what is this group of people, what is business insights and analytics, in short, BI&A. So our team specializes in data management, as you could see. That encompassing both primary data collected by the market research team and secondary data. This data is then processed and prepared by our data engineers and analysts. And subsequently, our machine learning engineers and our data sciences develop models to extract actionable insights from the data. These insights are then shared with business integrators who collaborate with other business partners to make data-driven decisions. From the initial stages of medicine development in our labs, our team begins to analyze fundamental aspects as things as simple as the number of patients that will benefit from this new treatment and what are the current treatments being used. We also focus on identifying the type of information the medical community needs to understand our medicines and to determine which patients will benefit the most from these new treatments. Additionally, we assess the optimal timing for transitioning to another brand when the scientific community has become so well-versed in a treatment that further information will not alter their perceptions. In line with today's theme of empowering the next generation of statisticians and data scientists, our team has grown into a diverse group with approximately 40% female representation across all organizational levels. While our work may not be as visible and or as public as the work developed in academia, we do have to solve very complex and deep technical problems, as you will see today. On a little bit more concrete example, we address several challenging questions as illustrated in this slide. And these questions span the entire life cycle of a brand, from pre-commercialization to becoming generic. And we will learn from today how an integrated team can orchestrate and execute a complex yet critical project. Without further ado, let's hear from the experts, and the floor is yours, Laura.
Wonderful. So I'm just going to ground us before we get into the project on just a quick introduction or quick primer into what is pharmaceutical marketing. There may be plenty of folks on this session who have some experience, but wanted to at least get everyone kind of on a general same page of when we talk about pharmaceutical marketing, what are we referring to? So if you think about even kind of taking a step back from pharmaceutical marketing, what marketing in general is aimed to do is kind of getting people aware of whatever product or service a company is providing. So kind of raising interest and awareness of the product, generating some inquiry, and having a product that meets their needs. What are they looking for in the product? Actually doing a purchase of the product, and then continuing to, depending on the product or service, either retaining that person onto the product or service, or referring others to the product or service to ultimately deliver value. So in industries outside of pharma, there are some industries where that path to purchase is pretty straightforward. It's easier in some other industries to click on an ad and buy something. So for me, for example, if I'm looking to buy a new mobile phone, it's a far straighter path for me to be able to look into products that are available or be aware of products that are available and then make that purchase myself. However, in pharmaceutical marketing and pharmaceuticals in general, there is a lot more complexity in how a patient actually goes on to a particular therapy or is even appropriate for a therapy in their journey. So as I speak about this, it's a little bit more skewed to the US and the way that we market pharmaceuticals in the US. But using this visual as an example, so kind of in that similar example, talking about marketing similarly, we have a patient who in the scenario is aware that they have a particular condition. So they may see pharmaceutical advertisements. So for Lilly, it would be for a particular product. In other areas, it's for maybe a class of medicine or a type of treatment. But a patient may see some information about this product that could meet their need. So what is not a linear path then is that there are multiple factors. So these kind of areas in yellow that influence if that patient is, or if that person is appropriate for the medicine, and what are types of things that kind of go into their framework of consideration before they would end up in a prescribing behavior. So there are things, for example, like managed care meeting their insurance coverage, or the type of insurance or healthcare plan that would allow them to receive medicines at a different price. So that's a component that goes into consideration for a patient. Then we go into the role of a healthcare professional. So in the pharmaceutical industry, it is being regulated and highly regulated. It's very important that a patient is prescribed a therapy that's right for them, and that a healthcare professional is monitoring and providing care for that patient. So there is a whole component of a healthcare team that may include the actual physician that a patient is seeing. It may include people in the office staff. It could include nurses. It could include other people that are helping to provide that patient with care. So there is a component of the healthcare professional and our healthcare professional receiving and being knowledgeable about a product or a particular type of treatment. So there are a variety of different ways that healthcare professional becomes aware, one of which that we're going to talk about is through, in the US, we have a sales force that can communicate with a physician about our particular products. So that is one component that is a kind of direct influence or understanding that a pharmaceutical company is able to provide to that healthcare professional. But in addition, that healthcare professional is considering who that patient is a particular medicine right for them, and also have other factors before the patient even would get to a prescription, that are some of which are in and some of which are outside of a healthcare professional's control. So again, that component of managed care, does the patient's healthcare plan even cover the therapy that the physician would recommend? Are there other therapies a patient has to try before they would go on to a treatment? What is the experience the patient is having with a pharmacist, so the person who actually provides the medicine to the patient when they're ready to fill a prescription, and there are additional market events. So there are multiple components that are multiple people and components that are influences into the overall continuum of care and in pharmaceutical marketing. And so if you think about the application to data and analytics, all of these different components have different associated data sets and signals that we are able to, in some aspects, see pretty clearly what's going on. In other aspects, as Stephanie mentioned, the capture may be low or non-existent. So Elena, can you skip to the next one? Great. So I covered this a little bit, but maybe a little bit more specifically, what are some of the challenges that we see in pharmaceutical marketing? So kind of that continuum of care. Not only are there multiple components, not only do we have low data capture and also lagged capture, patient privacy is of the utmost importance. So any patient data that we receive or have access to must remain anonymous. We don't know who the patient is. We have some understanding of their kind of experience and different therapies they've been on, but it's not a full capture. Looking at kind of those different components, the patient, the healthcare professional, I talked about managed care. It can be a very disconnected marketing ecosystem. So those different components can potentially happen without any integration across them. So with that context, we will get into the actual business question and challenge that we were working towards, which is thinking of that broad spectrum, is how do we empower our sales professionals to dynamically target physicians? So the analytics question we were trying to answer is, how do we dynamically target doctors? But from a both patient and healthcare professional lens, we're really trying to maximize the time that our sales professionals are spending on physicians that can then help and maximize the number of patients and the quality of care that a physician is able to provide. So thinking about, there are a fixed number of people that we are able to leverage as sales professionals. They have a fixed number of hours a day. They have fixed geography, that we had to work on a solution that could help get us to answers like, which doctor should each sales professional visit? How often should they go see that doctor? Why should they go at that moment? When they're there, what should they discuss? So really taking us from a far fewer refreshed, a sales professional may have a plan that they build for a 6-month time frame, and they do the same thing every week, to moving to a place where we're refreshing and updating monthly, both the who would be most appropriate for that sales professional to see, but also why. And doing this in a singular interface so that a sales professional wouldn't have to spend a lot of their time going to different sources and kind of coming up with their own plan, serving that up into a bit more packaged opportunity for the sales professional to use and apply in their day-to-day, kind of their day-to-day tasks.
Thank you, Laura.
Mhm.
I think that Maria, you're next.
Are we? I think.
No, sorry, Sameg.
Yeah, so
Samantha.
Sorry.
Yeah. So now Maria and I will discuss what we have done as a data engineering work for this project. So on screen you can see like there is this is how a typical data engineering life cycle look like. So we have different layers to this particular life cycle where a data engineer can play a pivotal role in that. So starting the first entry point for this particular life cycle is around the generation, like the different sources, how we gather different types of sources, be it the sources can be anything like the database, the flat files, or the API. So to define the best strategy for the to ingest that particular data, and what is the so we have to take in consideration multiple factors like what is the frequency of the data, like at what rate the data is coming, and what is the schema of the data. So all these things we have to factor in a lot of things while we ingest that particular sources. We have multiple sources for that. So the next thing that we do is do the transformation over the over that particular raw data that we receive. So the transformation can be in terms of any business logic that we have to implement to get the meaning out of that particular data, so that our downstream teams can use that data directly. So in these layers, in these different layers, we storage is also plays a very important role. At each layer we can have different types, we can use different types of storages, be it in the transformation layer, we can use a delta lakes. In ingestion, we have the ingestion as well. We can use different services that we have over cloud or on-prem. We can use that. And then the last thing that we have is the serving layer, where so after the once we transform that data, we apply those business logic, then we add that data into a serving layer. So that serving layers maybe can be used as an endpoint for many teams, many downstreams. So the different analytics teams or data science team can use that data directly, which we have prepared. So serving layer usually have this more structured kind of a data. So we can use like any data warehousing services like Redshift and those services, so that any downstream user can use with a low latency. So the latency of accessing that data is low. So that's how we maintain the robustness and the automation of that of any process that we create. And so we have different endpoints for our data engineering life cycles. Analytics teams can be there. So there is a data science team that can use that particular data, and there are different business use cases as well, that this data can be used in dashboards as well. So that is it. So to create a robust environment, we also have we have to create a good data architecture as well. We can follow any kind of data modeling for that. So we have that as well. Then we have to have good automation tool for the orchestration of these pipelines as well. So there can be different tools available in the market that we can use. One of the examples that we use in our project is Prefect. So yeah, this is how the data engineering life cycle looks like, and we work on different layers, be it undercurrents or be it the transformation. Every layer a data engineer can have can give their inputs and play an important role for the delivery and for the automation of the process. Yeah, I think Maria, you can take up the next. Yeah.
So let me talk about the role of data engineering in dynamic targeting project that we are going to describe here. It consists of several parts, so a little bit of a deep dive into the different parts of the process. We start with, as Sumega mentioned, with data collection and integration, and we aggregate data from multiple sources. For dynamic targeting project, Specifically in US, we collected HCP profiles data. We've integrated marketing activity data, some of the data sets that Laura mentioned that she was describing, some of the types of data that are used in data analysis. We also collected and integrated HCP prescribing behavioral data amongst other data sets. We do pay a lot of attention to data quality management. We implement data validations. We check for missing data. We do data cleansing to make sure that what we deliver to our data scientists is a high quality and accurate data sets. One of the critical parts of the data preparation is data transformation and future engineering. This is where we take the data and transform it into the usable formats specifically for dynamic targeting models, as well as we pull in relevant features into the data set, such as, for example, HCP specialty, HCP marketing channel responsiveness scores, HCP place of employment, or any other feature that would enhance the data and will enable the advanced analytics, the machine learning models, and the segmentation strategies. We do face challenges as part of this process, and Laura mentioned a few of them. We do have capture rates for some of the data sources that we have to bring in, and those capture rates are not high. Sometimes we have missing data, and we have to figure out how to fill that in or how to estimate it if we absolutely need it in the process. We also have data latency. Some of our execution data doesn't come in for a few weeks for us to look at. And as we're trying to do a near real time connects to our customers, that could impact potentially how and when we talk to them. One of the other important processes is performance monitoring and optimization. Data engineers track and monitor performance of data pipelines, efficiency, latency of the data, accuracy of the data, and based on that, we continuously optimize data flows and processing to enhance responsiveness of dynamic targeting strategies. And last but not least is the security and compliance. This could also pose some challenges that depending on the compliance of the data set that we want to integrate, we sometimes have to go through a privacy process approval, as well as some of the data sets we're not allowed to bring in and look at specifically with the data that I mentioned. Next slide, please. I'm also going to highlight the data engineering tools used specifically for this project. First of all, orchestration automation tools. These are the tools that essentially simplify complex tasks that happen as part of the data engineering. They enable automation of data pipelines executions. That speaks to scalability, the ability to scale this project to other products and other brands. They also create things like automation of business rules for error handling, and so errors can be handled automatically if they occur. And then they also allow scheduling workflows without manual intervention. The jobs can run in the background and produce consistent, reliable results because we have to deliver some of these data sets with a cadence, with a monthly or weekly cadence, whatever that cadence might be. A second tool, which we heavily use in almost every project, including the dynamic targeting project, is GitHub. GitHub is essentially a platform for hosting and managing code. For developers, it's a crucial tool. It enables version control. It allows developers collaborate and, most importantly, track code changes. It also helps automate code testing and deployment, essentially speeding up the process of creation of these data sets. And then finally, GitHub Copilot. This is one of the newer tools for us. It is an artificial intelligence powered coding assistant. And so we, as a developers, use this to help write code faster. And this is done through some real time code suggestions from a Copilot. And it also improves productivity through auto completion of the code writing, as well as based on the specific project needs, we can have reusable code snippets as part of that process to write an efficient code and essentially do it in a less amount of time. Next slide.
Can take that up. Thanks, Maria. So this is how our process looks like. How our basically the data pipelines or automation flow that looks like. So we have multiple therapeutic areas. So each of the therapeutic areas have various brands as well. So what we have done, we have developed different workflows. So we have actually created a scalable workflows that can generate our HCP target list effectively. And what we do, these market specific flows creates those lists, and then we consolidate that list to create a single target list, or maybe a single table, you can say, which we can publish to our stakeholders. And in that, before publishing the data, what we make sure in terms of data that we create, that there must, so we check whether about the overlapping of the data. If we deduplicate that data so that we can have the efficient data for the call planning. And since our process works on a monthly cycle, so we also delete the completed life cycles data as well to maintain the relevance of the data. So main goal of this particular exercise is to so that we can have new and fresh targets each month, and we can have a good pool of potential targets as well. So why we are doing this? So earlier we different therapeutic areas used to have do it independently. So we have created a strategy so that minimize the efforts as well, so that we can create a unified umbrella for different therapeutic areas as well. So we can go to the next slide. So to wrap up on the data engineering section, so what we so we also manage our project life cycle as well, project management life cycle as well. So which is for us, which is usually for 4 weeks, and it includes different phases as well. Like it includes the requirement gathering, then design, the development, optimization, and testing as well. And then we go live with the with the project. So with each phase, we have different stakeholders that are there. We engage. We have continuous engagement with those stakeholders, so that we seamlessly deliver the project and deliver the project on time. And we can have the correct data as well. And we have been using different orchestration and automation tools as well tools for the automation of the project. And we have made our processes and flows scalable and maintainable as well, so that it can be extended to different upcoming projects or upcoming therapeutic areas as well in the future. So that's all about the data engineering section. And
Thank you, Tim. So Stephanie, take it.
All right, so I'm taking us to the end where we'll talk a little bit about the statistical modeling. So now that we've had all this great work to both set the problem, to get the data on that, how do we actually solve this question of dynamically modeling and then kind of targeting doctors? So what we started off with is say, how do we even answer the base question? And the question was, how do we identify the doctors with the highest impact? What does that really mean? And so as we kind of brainstormed and discussed amongst ourselves, we kind of came up with 2 aspects of it. So a doctor who has a lot of patients is obviously one where there's a lot of opportunity to impact. But also you want to look for doctors that are likely to engage with our sales reps so that we have that ability to kind of impact. So, if there's a doctor that's already very familiar with our products, maybe there's less impact there, but also there are some doctors who are just not interested in engaging with sales reps, and that's fine. But obviously that's a good call out to say, hey, if they're not going to engage, this is not probably an area that Lilly will have a lot of impact on. So now when we get to this point, we start to turn those kind of questions or these sort of goals into our models themselves. And rather than try to solve all these different aspects of impact and maximizing, we said, let's break it up into a couple of different models themselves. So first off, we looked at, we said, hey, we can quantify the number of patients a doctor has via kind of a predictive regression model. So a fairly straightforward prediction approach there. As we look at the impact of kind of our engagements from our sales reps to doctors, we may be able to use causal inference to kind of predict a doctor's likelihood to engage with our sales representatives. And we can take all of that together to actually optimize impact. So I'll talk a little bit about optimization in the next part, but rather than saying, crunch all of these kind of revolving pieces into a single model, how do we break them out into individual set problems that makes it much easier for us to achieve? And then once you also have these three components, we can also query the models themselves to help generate insights to help our reps understand why did we say this doctor is going to be the one with the highest impact. So for example, for those who are kind of familiar with regression-based approaches, there's a lot of work you can use such as feature importance and SHAP values to really identify what factors are the most important when it comes to making a prediction, and we can surface that information directly to the sales reps to help provide them some information. One of the benefits we found after we sort of broke the problem out is that by breaking the problem into a couple of components, it gives us a lot of flexibility to address very different disease states within the same framework. So Lilly has a very large kind of medicine portfolio. So even thinking about, is this a framework that would help us cover small products such as, oncology and cancer medications, all the way up to our much larger retail products, kind of more in, say, the diabetes space. And so by breaking these out, we're able to really modify and fine tune each of the individual models so that it best fits the specific disease state we're working on without having to, say, overhaul and come up with an entirely new model for each disease state. Next slide. Now, as we get into this, what does that actually look like from an analytics flow? And so we'd say in the first step, we're going to take our two models. So as mentioned, we have a regression model to predict patient quantity, and then a causal inference model to predict the probability that our doctors are going to engage. And so that when you combine those two together, you can literally multiply the output. That essentially gives you sort of a response curve that gives you the relationship between the number of visits versus the number of patients. And so kind of I put an example response curve there, but once you've got response curves for each of our individual doctors, we can start to use optimization to really say, okay, now how do I really optimize and say, which doctors should each sales reps visit, but also how do I start to take in the much more practical constraints? So things like, if there's a specific physical location, so sales representatives can only visit doctors kind of in the same state or the same area that they're based in. So how do I make sure that I'm only aligning, viable relationships there? How do I make sure that I'm not assigning too many kind of engagements, given that our sales reps have limited time? And just various constraints like that. So when you put all of that stuff together, that really helps us create that final output that really says, hey, based off our analytics, we recommend you visit these doctors this many times in the next month. Next slide. And I'll use this slide to kind of highlight a little bit the beauty of really designing the whole framework with this idea of scalability. So once we've taken the different steps that have been discussed, we need to think about how do we make sure that we check the data is available? How do we clean and generate our data for our models? How do we start to run the models and the optimization, and then how do we deliver it? So once we had this kind of base framework and this base code base in mind, we're really able to kind of set it up so that it kind of automatically runs and automatically checks, and we're able to deliver on a monthly level with pretty minimal intervention. So in that sense, our code and our products are all set to kind of run on a regular schedule. We again check to make sure that nothing, breaks as it's running, but for the most part, you don't need to have anybody involved. And then as we think about the time and the cost of this, the only cost that we're really paying for is computational time. So we're able to schedule these jobs to run overnight, and then our computational costs are incredibly low, especially compared to kind of the previous state, where we're really doing a lot of these kind of decision making about, which doctor, which sales representatives manually. So to get a very manual process down to essentially an automated run that, costs us a very small amount of money is a really big achievement to kind of have gone through in this project. Next slide. And then the last slide we put in here is a little bit of thinking about how do we, we built out this really cool analytics capability, but you're always going to encounter a little bit of skepticism from people who maybe aren't as familiar. So we put in a couple of tips here about how do you sort of build that buy-in with with kind of the business partners. And I actually pulled this slide from a training that we had within Lilly, where they actually use Pi to sort of talk about how the models themselves work. So this example here really encompasses the kind of all four pieces that we had in here about how do you kind of build that buy-in, but it's working with your, the people, the early advocates of your product who are usually non-technical people, helping them understand how your kind of solution and product works. And then they are really good at saying, okay, I understand your analytics. Let me help you explain it to other people in a way that would resonate with them. And that's kind of how we got to this great analogy about Pi and analytics that really helped, I think, with the widespread adoption of this capability across the company. And then I think we've got one more slide after this. So the last slide we have here is just kind of summarizing the general learnings we have it. The main things we kind of highlight is that this was an incredibly large project, and we were only able to be successful because we had a very diverse and a very well integrated team. So we brought together, as you can see, a team of people with a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different skills, and that really helped us to build an end-to-end solution that, was really able to flow. But also because our team was so well integrated, we were able to communicate with each other and understand, hey, what are your requirements? What are your limitations? And really work together to make sure that the final solution worked for every team involved. Little things there. We also talked a little bit about like the data and the analytics of managing things at scale. So thinking about, instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to solve the problem once and then have to manually maintain it, how do I really set up the solution such that, from an analytics and data perspective, things run automatically cleanly, but also that we have the understanding across the business so that they're able to understand and really move with it forward. And it's not always just us, the analytics people, pushing the product from the back end. Hey. So highlighting the final part there, a lot of women were involved in this project from very different sources, a lot of different parts. So we highlighted sort of the roles of women in analytics in our business insights and analytics group, but a lot of women in other teams at Lilly were involved to help make sure this product was finally delivered, successfully. So with that, I know we've got only a couple more minutes. If there's any questions, we're definitely happy to answer them.
Thank you, Stephanie. There is no questions in the chat, and I think that we do not have a lot of time for questions, but I have just a very quick one for Maria. Maria, how large is your smallest data set in this project?
Oh, that would span several gigabytes of data. So we sometimes work with small data sets, but for the most part, they're pretty large. So
thank you so much. I want to thank you all for the presentations. And if anyone in the audience has questions, please feel free to contact us. In the future, we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.